Laguna Tools believes that the finest machines only work their best when outfitted with the proper tooling and the best blades. And there's a lot of different selections when you come to bandsaw blades. Let's have a look at a few here. You'll see I've got a wide variety of blades laid out on the table. And the bandsaw offers so many different types of blades to allow you to do a lot of different cuts. Let's start here at the small end. And these are the 1/4" blades. And this is typically the smallest that you're going to have on your bandsaw unless you have cool blocks on the bandsaw. Now you'll see that there's a couple of different tooth profiles here. These are all a hook tooth blade, and this is a 1/4" blade. This is a 4 tooth per inch. This is a 6, and this is a 14 tooth per inch. Now, a 4 tooth per inch will give you a nice fast cut and a little bit of a rough surface finish. The 6 tooth will have a little bit finer of a surface finish and still give you a pretty good cut speed. When you move to the 14 TPI, it'll have a much slower cut rate, but a much smoother finish. Now, blades of this nature will be great for doing detailed cuts, nice little curves, circles, and detailed shapes. They're great for cutting cabriole table legs, cutting out small toys and things like that. The next size up gets into the 3/8" blades. Now, the 3/8" blades are available in a 4 TPI as well as in a 14 TPI. Now, the 3/8" blade tends to be the favorite for bowl turners. They'll take a 4 TPI, 3/8" blade, and they'll round out a bowl blank with it. It gives a little more blade stiffness and a little more beam strength than the 1/4" blade, but not as wide as a 1/2" blade that lets you turn a little bit tighter here. So the 3/8" blade is a nice one for doing smaller bowl blanks. If you're doing larger bowls, you might want to come over to the 1/2". The 1/2" blades drop down a tooth and they go to a 3 tooth per inch, and also a 14 TPI. And again, the 14 is going to be a slower cut, a smoother finish. And these are great for a nice gentle curve. If you're doing a rocking chair rocker or a nice table round or a curved table apron, this is a perfect selection for that. And a lot of guys find that this 1/2" blade lives on the bandsaw quite a bit because you can do so many different cuts with it. You can do a little bit of lightweight resawing with it. You can do some curves with it. So it spends a lot of time on the bandsaw in my shop. When I start doing straight line resawing, I start moving to bigger blades. The next selection up gets into the 3/4" blade, and we've got a 3/4 by 3 TBI right here. And again, this is a fast cutting blade. It also will allow you to do a little bit of circles and curves, a pretty generous one. So this is going to be strictly for a tabletop or something of a large diameter. Or this will be the maximum size that some bandsaws will take. Some of the small 14s max out at a 3/4", and this is the widest blade that they can take. And this would be strictly for doing resaw work on those bandsaws. The next step up, you get into the 1" blades, and the 1" blade is a great blade for doing resaw work, and we've got a couple of different selections here. We've got a very coarse one, and this one you'll notice has missing teeth in there, it looks like, but this is about a 1.3 TPI, and with such a coarse and aggressive cutting blade, this cuts very, very fast. It's not for a smooth finish at all. It's something you want to use just for breaking wood down to manageable sizes. This is also what we call an extra thin blade. When you get into the wider blades, typically you're going to get into thicker and heavier blade stock. This is a 3 tooth per inch, and you'll notice that the blade stock is a little bit thicker and a little bit heavier. And this should not be used on 14" bandsaw wheels. You want to really go 16 or even a little bit larger, 18 and above, typically for this blade. The next one we get is a 6 TPI, and again, it's a little slower cutting, a little smoother finish. Now, if you really want the ultimate finish, we're going to switch over here. We're going to skip over the 1¼ blades. We're going to go right to the resaw king blade. And let's talk about this blade for a moment here. Again, these have the carbide tip teeth on them. There is no set to these teeth like you'll see on the other blades right here. All of the other blades that are on the table have set to the teeth. This one actually uses a little bit thicker piece of carbide than the backing. Now, the backing on all these blades is a nice Swedish silicon steel that gives you a great amount of flex on the bandsaw. On this blade, we go one step further. Again, we use a nice Swedish silicon steel, and then we weld on tough pieces of C8 alloy steel on this one here. Generically, it's called a carbide, and this allows you to do a nice smooth finish resaw cut. The other advantage to this blade is you'll notice that it has a little shoulder right behind the tooth, and that prevents you from overfeeding the blade and feeding it too fast. The nice thing also about the teeth is that they are resharpenable. And this blade is resharpenable. You simply coil it up, drop it in a box, and ship it back to us. And we resharpen it right on the jigs and on the machines that it was originally produced on. And again, this is a specialty blade. If you are reclaiming wood that might have some metal in it, could have a rock or a nail or something like that in a piece of wood, stick with a much less expensive blade, and then when you do your finish cuts, come over to the resaw king blade. Well, I hope this video has been helpful for you and learning a few tips and techniques with your bandsaw and any setup hints that you might have picked up. And if you need additional help, there's a couple of ways to get it. You can give us a phone call toll-free at 800-234-1976, or you can go to our website at www.lagunatools.com and click on Company, click on Manuals, and you can create a login to go into the troubleshooting section where there's a lot of tips and information in that area. Well, as you can see, little projects like this with a little bit of curved detail give you great practice. And I find that it's nice to do a little flower or something like this. It warms me up. It gives me a little bit of practice. And if I'm going to do something like a cabriole table leg, I want to loosen up and get my hands flowing so that I can trace that shape and make a nice even cut. And while this one looks a little bit rough, you can probably do one a lot smoother by just taking your time and following the curves a little bit easier. But that's a great practice piece for doing table legs. Well, that's it for today. I'm going to take the bandsaw and move it out of the way so we can get on to the next project.